Yeah, let's talk about this for a minute before Mark Levin comes on. It's what 5:56, so about 10 minutes. Yeah. JT coming in here saying that he doesn't go after people unless they go after him. Hmm. Wow. You know, it's saying that I'm. What'd you say about me? It doesn't matter. JT, it doesn't matter. Fact of the matter is, Gotti brought your girlfriend and you into my chat, and that's where you got your start. And so now your name is Nigga Lips because you're running them motherfuckers all the time. You do have some big lips, I'll give you that. If that's your real picture, come in here trying to make you self-relevant, thinking that us old guys are just gonna fucking. Oh, you're such a wonderful guy, JT. JT, you're the greatest. Oh, you're the best, JT. Jeez, you're even better than logical fallacy. You're such a genius. So guess what tonight? All right, I gotta set up. I'll be back in a minute. Yeah, excuse me. I had to go outside, bring a couple things in. Turn that down a little bit. I had the music cranked.
We are the American Cancer Society, making strides against breast cancer. Are you ready to join the #1 breast cancer movement in the country? Sign up today at makingstrideswalk.org.
At Metro Flooring, you always get more, like more rooms of carpet and more savings with this great deal. For a limited time, you can get 3 rooms of carpet for just $7.99. See all the ways you can get more for your money at metroflooringcontractors.com. 450 medical professionals
were concerned that our state's death determination had been tainted by racial or pro-law enforcement bias or were otherwise inconsistent.
During
About 4 minutes he'll be on.
36 in custody deaths during that time.
4 more minutes he'll be on.
Ruled homicides, which doesn't always mean criminal conduct, just that they should be reviewed. Scotland on WMAL and WMAL.com.
The FBI is investigating a security incident in the NIH lab at Fort Detrick stemming from an apparent lover's quarrel.
The investigation uncovered a security incident that happened in March before I actually signed on.
NIH Director Jay Bhattacharya telling The Vince Show
A contractor had deliberately cut a hole in one of the biocontainment suits of a fellow worker. Let's go over a lover spat as best I can tell.
that lab studies deadly pathogens, including Ebola and encephalitis. Director Bhattacharya has shut down the lab until the safety culture, he says, is corrected. The lab's director is on administrative leave for failing to report the incident. Barbara Britt, WMAL and WMAL.com.
Checking your money, the Dow today closing up 271 points. The NASDAQ finishing down 34. Traffic and weather next.
Hackers don't need much. Just one leaked password can potentially unlock a treasure trove of personal information.
Oatmeal cookie.
Stress, pain, and permanently wreck credit. Don't be an easy target. Get protection by Aura today. Aura protects your identity, finances, and family all in one powerful app. Get real-time alerts, safeguard your accounts, and block scams before they happen. If identity theft strikes, we help you recover. Stay protected at aura.com/stream. That's AURA.com/stream.
Hey, if you have ugly yellow toe fungus, you got to hear about the secret 2-minute trick that I found for my husband. It works from both the inside and the outside. Thousands of people are using it to get rid of their toe fungus. You can check it out at crystalflesh.com. Jake started off with a small spot on his big toe, and then it spread and got really bad. His toes were nasty. It was so embarrassing. He was afraid to take his socks off. He hid his yellow and crumbly toes from everyone. He tried everything to get rid of it. Nothing helped. And then we found crystalflesh.com. It was the only thing that worked. In just a few weeks, his toes looked amazing. He's now walking around barefoot again. You guys need to try this. I'm telling you, this stuff is different. It's not sold in stores, but go check it out at crystalflesh.com. They'll even let you try it risk-free, so you have nothing to lose. But whatever you do, don't let it get worse. You don't have to.
All right, disclaimer. All right. Wigan knows I don't force anybody to listen to Mark Levin. If I got people that want to come up on the panel, I do that in my own home. If I'm watching TV and somebody shows, I'll turn the TV off or whatever. Right, Gotti?
Also, you'll find delays southbound headed from 198 towards 197 and from the Beltway heading towards 450. Also, traffic is slow in the district on DC 295 northbound heading from the 11th Street Bridge towards Eastern Avenue. Also, delays southbound from Burroughs Avenue towards East Capitol Street, and 395 slowing northbound between Washington Boulevard and the 14th Street Bridge. Freeway is heavy.
I could think of a different name to put on that motherfucker.
Now from GarageRepair.com to WMAL Storm Watch 7 forecast. Expect evening showers and thunderstorms. Luray, Culpeper, Fredericksburg.
Let's see if it'll fucking let me do it.
Temperatures 70 to 75 degrees. Patchy fog over
I think I can change it.
mid 60s and high temperatures
I'm
Friday.
gonna find out.
89 degrees. Could get some strong to severe thunderstorms. I'm 7 News Chief Meteorologist Veronica Johnson in the First Alert Weather Center.
Right now, 80 degrees in Washington. I'm Heather Curtis on WMAL.
Broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
One more. How do you like that?
Mark Levin here. Our number 877-381-3811. 877-381-3811. Well, birthright citizenship case in front of the Supreme Court. Really, two issues: the issue of birthright citizenship and these national injunctions. We pulled some audio here that I think you're going to find fascinating. This is, of course, in my zone. And so we're going to spend most, if not all, the first hour on this, breaking it down for you so you understand on multiple levels what's taking place. I've talked about birthright citizenship behind this microphone for 20 years. Talked about it on Fox. I think it goes back to like 2012 or something the first time I talked about it. I've written about it. It's all the basic information that has been used in the public square is information that I researched, analyzed, developed, and discussed and wrote about. And we're going to approach this from multiple vantage points. The arguments that are being made, the conduct of the justices, what your Constitution compels, the 14th Amendment, the power of the judiciary. We're going to take a look at all this because it's relevant to your life. Now, what's amazing, even though I don't address birthright citizenship per se in my new book on power, this falls right into the category of some of the other things do of what I write about in the book. So let's take a look at this. Let's listen into some of this first. You'll be disappointed, of course, with Amy Coney Barrett. She's gone to the dark side. That's just the way it is. She's gone to the dark side. But let's start with Brown. Ketanji Brown Jackson. Birthright citizenship case today. The Solicitor General is John Sauer, who was President Trump's lawyer in the Supreme Court in the immunity debate, where he did very well. Immunity case. Cut 6, go.
I would think we'd want the system to move as quickly as possible to reach the merits of the issue and maybe have this court decide whether or not the government is entitled to do this under the law.
Now, hold on now. So what she's talking about are these nationwide injunctions. So her justification, which is perverse, it's a perverse logic. Her justification is, well, why wouldn't you want this so it gets quickly to the U.S. Supreme Court? Well, why would it get more quickly to the U.S. Supreme Court if you have a district court that makes a decision that's worthy of Supreme Court review? Then the court should take that up quickly from the appellate court. But that's not a justification for power being ceded to hundreds and hundreds of federal district courts. There's nothing in our history, nothing in our Constitution, nothing in any judiciary act that empowers federal trial courts to do any such thing. So Justice Jackson is basically a hack in a black robe. That's what she is. You can bet your mortgage. You can bet whatever you want on where she's going to come down on these big constitutional issues. You can bet it. It's always centralized power. It's always what I call, and I call it in the book, I coin a number of phrases, the deconstitutionalization of our government. She's deconstitutionalizing our government. Go ahead.
Having universal injunctions actually facilitate that. It seems to me that when the government is completely enjoined from doing the thing it wants to do, it moves quickly to...
So this is a speech on behalf of hundreds and hundreds of like-minded radical left-wing judges. She was one. I believe she moved from the district court to the Supreme Court, the district court in Washington. And so you see what she's saying. Well, if we can have these nationwide injunctions, then the Supreme Court essentially will be forced to take it up relatively quickly. That is so perverse. Well, maybe they should seize other powers, forcing the Supreme Court to take the case up relatively quickly. No? Go ahead.
Feel that to get it to the Supreme Court, and that's actually what we would want. What I worry about is similar to what Justice Kagan points out, is that if the government is saying no lower court can completely enjoin it, it actually means that the government just keeps on doing the purportedly unlawful thing, and it delays the ability for this court to reach the underlying issue.
Now, what did she just say? She just said, with a national injunction, we get to the Supreme Court more quickly. Then she says, the problem with this is if a lower court is restricted to their district, which is what they're supposed to be, then the government just keeps doing whatever it wants. Maybe it's an unlawful thing. Well, why is that? The Supreme Court can still take up the appeal from the appellate court, the circuit court, whether it's in a district court. You don't need a district court having a national injunction. In fact, I would argue, contrary to her logic, that if you have a district court where the government is basically continuing to do illegal things, as she puts it, why wouldn't you? The case comes up to the appellate court and then goes to the Supreme Court. So listen to me carefully. I'm trying to explain this in plain English. You have a district court. They put in an injunction in the district court. They believe what the government's doing is illegal, but the government continues to do it in all the other districts. So you appeal the district court decision if you're an attorney, and you take it to the circuit court. There's not 700 circuit courts. And then from the circuit court, then you can go to the Supreme Court. So if the Supreme Court's worried that in all these other federal districts or all these other circuits, the government's violating the law, it still can take up the case. It takes up the case from the district to the circuit to the Supreme Court. None of that changes. None of it. The absurdity of what she's arguing, Kagan, they got the three stooges in on this. They're trying to get the fourth stooge, the four women on the court. They're trying to get Barrett. Probably will. This really is cut and dry. This isn't even controversial. Let's go to Clarence Thomas. Cut 7. Go.
General, when were the first universal injunctions used?
We believe that the best reading of that is what you said in Trump against Hawaii, which is that Wirtz in 1963 was really the first universal injunction. There's a dispute about Perkins against Lukens Oil going back to 1940. And of course, we point to the court's opinion that reversed that universal injunction issued by the DC Circuit and said it's profoundly wrong. Now, if you look at the cases that the either party cite, you see a common theme. The cases that we cite, like National Treasury's Employment Union, Perkins against Lukens Oil, Frothingham, and Massachusetts against Mellon, going back to Scott against Donald, and all of those are cases where the court considered and addressed the sort of universal, in that case, statewide issue of provision of injunctive relief. So when the court has considered and addressed this, it has consistently said you have to limit the remedy to the plaintiffs who are appearing in court and complaining of that remedy.
So we survived until the 1960s without universal injunctions.
That's exactly correct. And in fact, those are
Stop. This is too important. This guy's a genius, Clarence Thomas. No wonder they try to destroy him. His point is, all the way up to 1963, we never really had universal injunctions. For almost 200 years, 180 years, give or take, we didn't have universal injunctions. We didn't have them. And now you have Jackson and Kagan and Sotomayor, no doubt Barrett, making the case. Well, you can get your case to the Supreme Court more quickly. Why? What does that have to do with anything? Let's say, again, as a footnote, you take a case to a judge in Boston, a federal district court in Boston. In Boston, let's say, is the jurisdiction. And you bring that case and you're the government, and somebody brings the case against you and you're the government, and the case brought against you, the court puts in place a temporary injunction. But the government can continue to do what it's doing in all these other jurisdictions. And Jackson says, so the government can continue to act illegally in all these other jurisdictions. Well, who says the government's acting illegally in all these other jurisdictions? Maybe that judge in Boston is wrong. Maybe the government's not acting illegally or unconstitutionally. So she's making a pretty broad assumption. But putting that aside, the case in Boston winds up, I think it's the Second Circuit over there, not sure, goes to the appellate court, the Second Circuit, but whatever it's called, it doesn't appellate court. And after the appellate court, you can appeal to the Supreme Court. So whether it comes out of a single district or it comes out of a national injunction, the Supreme Court still can take a whack at it. So Jackson makes absolutely no sense. She demonstrates she's an idiot, and an idiot, in my humble opinion. And then we have Clarence Thomas saying, okay, how did we survive without this for most of our history? Go ahead.
In the 1960s, it really exploded in 2007 in our cert petition in Summers against Earth Island Institute. We pointed out that the Ninth Circuit had started doing this in a whole bunch of cases involving environmental claims.
Mm-hmm. Ninth Circuit. Remember when the Ninth Circuit was crazy ass? That's why Jackson likes it, Kagan likes it, Sotomayor likes it. Unfortunately, Barrett. Then we get into this issue. Well, let's let it play out. This is the Solicitor General, John Sawyer, really sharp guy. And Barrett, cut 8, go.
General Sauer, I want to ask you about a potential tension. Well, no, not potential tension, an actual tension that I see in answers that you gave to Justice Kavanaugh and Justice Kagan. You resisted Justice Kagan when she asked you whether the government would obey within the Second Circuit a precedent, distinguishing between opinions and judgments here. Did I understand you correctly to tell Justice Kagan that the government wanted to reserve its right to maybe not follow a Second Circuit precedent, say, in New York, because you might disagree with the opinion?
Our general practice is to respect those precedents, but there are circumstances when it is not a categorical practice, and that is not
this administration's practice or the longstanding practice of the federal government. And I'm not talking about in the Fourth Circuit, are you going to respect a Second Circuit? I'm talking about within the Second Circuit. And can you say, is that this administration's practice or a longstanding one?
As I understand it, longstanding policy of the Department of Justice, yes, that we generally, as it was phrased to me, generally respect circuit precedent, but not necessarily in every case. And some examples might be a situation where we're litigating to try and get that circuit precedent overruled and so forth.
Well, okay, so I'm not talking about a situation in which, you know, the Second Circuit has a case from 1955 and you think it's time for it to be challenged. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about in this kind of situation. I'm talking about this week, the Second Circuit holds that the executive order is unconstitutional. And then what do you do the next day or the next week?
Generally, we follow
So you're still saying generally?
Yes.
And you still think
Well, I'll tell you why he's saying generally, Justice. Because the extent to which you people in the courts, particularly the activists on the circuit courts, and particularly activists on the Supreme Court, have taken the judiciary is way out of bounds from the constitutional construct. That's what he's saying or trying to say. The circuit issues a ruling, right? Let's say the circuit issues a ruling. An emergency hearing gets to the circuit, goes from the district court to the circuit, and let's say it involves national security. Let's say it involves something about a battlefield decision or a military decision by the president. And the circuit, and look, this isn't even beyond imagination. It's going on in Israel right now with their out-of-control courts, and we're getting close. We're getting close with the pullback of the planes from Venezuela filled with, or I should say El Salvador, filled with Venezuelan criminals. And let's say the Second Circuit says, no, Mr. President, this is the way that's to be handled in the battle, and so, and he's saying we reserve the right to reject that. There you have literally a conflict of the branches where the commander-in-chief, the executive branch, has by far the better constitutional argument. And she said, are you telling me you wouldn't comply with the order? Are you telling me you wouldn't comply with it? I wouldn't comply with an order that affected what's going on a battlefield or a military decision. Absolutely not. And she's appalled by that. So she seems to think the power of the courts are more powerful than the power of the Constitution. Well, judicial review, we get to make the final decision. Where the hell did that come from? An 1803 decision. That's not in the Constitution either. I'm just making the point that what the Solicitor General Sauer is saying is correct. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
News Talk 105.9 WMAL, making sense of the news.
Some big news. Iran is threatening to wipe Israel off the map and destroy America. Now, UN inspectors say Iran is close to getting nuclear weapons, just weeks away. But President Trump vows he won't let them. He's even moved 2 aircraft carriers to the area. This is a big story, and Newsmax's Rob Finnerty is covering it all this week and exposing the real threat. Tune in at 8 p.m. Eastern tonight for Rob's series, Stop Iran, and find out Trump's secret plan to fix this. Watch Finnerty on Newsmax on all major cable systems. President Trump says he watches Newsmax all the time. You should too. So download the free Newsmax app on your smartphone and sign up for Newsmax Plus to watch us anytime, anywhere. Millions are making the switch to Newsmax.
Few accidents to be aware of in Prince George's County. One is southbound on Branch Avenue at Woodyard Road, another one on 450 west of Veterans Parkway in Landover Hills, and another accident in Landover on Sheriff Road at Bright Seat Road. Slowboat traffic on the BW Parkway headed northbound through Cheverly between 202 and the Beltway and between NASA Goddard and 197, and DC 295 is jammed up northbound between the 11th Street Bridge and Eastern Avenue. Also heavy southbound from Burroughs Avenue towards East Capitol Street. Now from GarageRepair.com, the WMAL Storm Watch 7 forecast.
Tonight, mostly cloudy with a shower possible, lows around 36. Tomorrow, partly sunny with a chance for stronger afternoon storms, a high near 90.
Actor Michael Rosenbaum, he knows some of the most talented people in the business.
Will Wheaton is here. I'm getting ready to do this podcast. I text my Star Trek family. That is a supernatural impulse. If you're here for Jay Moore, you found the right place.
Have you always had a large personality? The nicest way anyone could ever put it. You always warn people out.
From Twilight, Ashley Green.
We were just like, no one's going to see this. This is not going to be a good movie.
I really love the movie.
Don't feel bad.
The Inside of You podcast. Follow and listen on your favorite platform.
Blowing out your birthday candles should be easy, but if you have undiagnosed COPD, you may find yourself short of breath. Early diagnosis and treatment can add years to your life. If you have symptoms like wheezing or chronic cough, talk to your doctor and visit copdfoundation.org today.
Nightly Scroll with Haley Karania.
It is Haley Karania. I'm excited to be here because there's a lot to scroll through on X, on Instagram, on TikTok, on Truth Social. Love seeing you all in the chat before the show. I try to jump in just a few minutes before to say hello. I love the chat interaction. Thank you for helping. Love all my homies that I get to scroll with. If you want to listen, Nightly Scroll with Haley is where you can find me. Just search that up and I will be there. We've got to spread the word far and wide.
Nightly Scroll with Haley Karania. Follow and listen on your favorite platform.
While serving in Iraq, our vehicle was hit. They didn't think I was going to make it. I'm Latoya Lucas, and I'm a veteran. I had to learn to live with the scars, both visible and invisible.
DAV helps veterans like LaToya get the benefits they earn. They help more than 1 million veterans every year.
My victory is overcoming my wounds so I can help other veterans.
Support more victories for veterans. Go to DAV.org.
We're with Bridget, whose husband won't be home for months and whose daughter is due any day. We're with all service members and their families. Are you with them? Learn more at USO.org today.
Illuminating the issues.
There's a whole lot missing here in this story, isn't there?
Every day.
Why are we the only ones reporting this?
News Talk 105.9. Making sense of the news.
Let's see, something different for dinner. Searching restaurants near me.
Right here, ma'am. How can we help?
Gee, same old, same old.
Wait, we're right here. Ma'am, our restaurant's just a few blocks from you. Why is she not seeing us?
Back to the usual, I guess.
Ma'am, can you not see us?
Nope, they can't see you because you're buried deep in the list of local restaurants. You are invisible online. Introducing Cumulus Boost. Get a boost, get found, get on the map. Learn more at cumulusboost.com.
School absences are often due to the absence of necessary resources. But when Communities in Schools is present, students are connected to the support they need to show up ready to learn. Visit communitiesinschools.org. Being present matters.
Making sense of your world
On the go. Stream your favorite shows, get the day's top headlines, and access our podcast archives, all with the new WMAL app.
This is for you.
Get the WMAL app on Google Play or the Apple App Store and stay connected.
Green light. Hey girl, school zone. I'm getting hungry. Car changing lanes. You want to meet me for pizza? Stop sign. Intersection clear. Yeah, street. Pizza sounds good. Ballin Street? Girlin Street!
It's hard to concentrate on two things at once, like texting and driving. Stop the text, stop the wrecks. How will you stop texting and driving? Tell us at stoptextstopwrecks.org. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
WMAL.
We only have a minute. When we return, Sam Alito, you'll see his genius at work, and he's absolutely genius. You'll see Elena Kagan. You'll see why she's nothing of the sort. And so we'll get into this, and then he has to deal with Sotomayor. But this shouldn't even be controversial. It shouldn't be a left-right thing. These national injunctions, they're a disgrace. There's no authority for this whatsoever. It creates chaos. You can see the argument that Jackson made. It's absolutely feeble and embarrassing. Even Barrett, you can't think of a single case where the executive branch would reject an order from a circuit. How about if the three-judge panel or even the full circuit is way out of line? Maybe they issue some kind of Dred Scott decision. Should the executive branch go along with that? I'll be right back.
Hi, I'm George, an economics major at Hillsdale College. Here's Hillsdale President Dr. Larry Arnn with the Constitution Minute.
The Declaration of Independence is more than a bold letter to a British king written by upstart colonists, although it very much is that. The Declaration explains the promise of America, that all men and women are born equal in their possession of natural rights, and that the proper exercise of these rights can lead to a full and deeply satisfying life. Just as the Declaration explains America's promise, the Constitution upholds that promise. Its purpose is to protect the rights of all of us, our natural rights. This establishes the possibility, not the guarantee, that we can have a good life. This is true freedom.
To learn more and get a free pocket Constitution, visit constitutionminute.com.
This Constitution Minute was furnished by Hillsdale College.
WMAL-FM, Woodbridge, Washington, a Cumulus media station.
Making sense of the news.
News Talk 105.9. News now.
WMAL News at 6:30. I'm Heather Curtis. A miraculous ending to a terrifying incident in White Oak this afternoon. A 2-year-old fell from a balcony on the 15th story of the Enclave Apartments and survived. The toddler landed in some bushes and has a broken arm. Police say no criminal charges have been filed. President Trump not sounding optimistic that anything will come out of tomorrow's talks in Turkey to try to end Russia's war in Ukraine. He, Russian President Vladimir Putin, and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky are all skipping out.
Nothing's going to happen until Putin and I get together, okay?
Secretary of State Marco Rubio.
It's going to require that level of engagement to have a breakthrough in this matter.
Zelensky says the Russian delegation doesn't include anyone who actually makes decisions. Traffic and weather next.
Imagine the hospital experience. There's a constant parade of serious doctors, countless tests, and a serious diagnosis. Scary surgeries are followed by painful recoveries. You're in the hospital for days, weeks, months. Now imagine you're a child. This is why Starlight exists. Starlight programs help kids in the hospital cope, build resilience, bolster confidence, and change their outlook. Because happiness matters. Visit starlight.org to learn more.
Actor Michael Rosenbaum, he knows some of the most talented people in the business.
Will Wheaton is here. I'm getting ready to do this podcast. I text my Star Trek family. That is a supernatural impulse.
If you're here for Jane Moore, you found the right place.
Have you always had a large personality? The nicest way anybody's ever put it. You always warn people out.
From Twilight, Ashley Green.
We were just like, no one's going to see this. This is not going to be a good movie.
I really love the movie.
Don't feel bad.
The Inside of You podcast. Follow and listen on your favorite platform.
We're the stronger than we look type.
I've had type 1 diabetes since I was 2.
The braver than you think type.
I have to take insulin shots every single day.
The type that will stop at nothing.
No more blood sugar tests.
Absolutely nothing.
No more complications.
Until type 1 becomes type none.
Support JDRF's life-changing research, and one day you'll say, I helped turn type 1 into type none. Join us now at jdrf.org.
As a young adult at this point in your life, you probably have a lot of questions. Like, what's next? What does my future hold? The thing is, there's no right answer, only your answer. Your friendships, experiences, and purpose. It's all your choice. So what will you choose? As you make choices about the future, the military can be a resource for information to help bring a fulfilling path into focus. A public service message from the Department of Defense. To learn more, visit todaysmilitary.com.
Making sense of the headlines, making sense of your world. WMAL's Vince Colonnese.
Thank you for all you do on the radio show.
What a nice call. Thank you very much. Weekdays, noon to 3. News Talk 105.9. WMAL. Making sense of the news. Making sense of your morning.
Lots of coverage here on that developing story.
O'Connor and Company. Weekday mornings from 5 to 9.
Larry O'Connor here getting you through your morning.
Making sense of Washington.
Asking some very specific questions, some legitimate questions.
Making sense of the double standard.
Then here's the latest example.
Making sense of the headlines.
So let me break it down for you, because there's plenty to break down here.
O'Connor and Company with Larry O'Connor. Mornings from 5 to 9. News Talk 105.9. WMAL. Making sense of the news.
Every 15 seconds, someone is diagnosed with cancer. If it's happened to you or someone you love, the American Cancer Society can help at every step of the journey. Visit cancer.org today.
Making sense of your world.
There are a lot of things that really tick me off.
News Talk 105.9 WMAL. Making sense of the news.
An unapologetic patriot and unapologetic constitutionalist. You can reach him at 877-381-3811.
Elena Kagan, Cut 10, go.
So, General, on this question of expedition, I mean, it sort of depends on the government's own actions in a case like this one, where one can expect that there is not going to be a great deal of disagreement among the lower courts. I mean, let's assume that you lose in the lower courts pretty uniformly.
All right, let's stop right there. What does that have to do with anything? So you lose in the lower courts, and you lose in a bunch of lower courts. Didn't Chuck Schumer say he helped put 235 progressive lawyers on the courts to thwart Trump? So it's likely you're going to lose in several of these courts. And so her argument seems to be give them more power. Give them more power, you see? That way, the Supreme Court might consider taking up the case. Now, let's say the Supreme Court's made up of a bunch of leftists. I don't think the Supreme Court will take up the case very quickly at all. But again, this has nothing to do with anything. The process is in place, whether it's one court, 25 courts, whether it's one court with a national injunction or one court with an injunction that is within the jurisdiction of the court, the district. The process is the same. You appeal to a circuit court, then you file a writ of certiorari with the Supreme Court. They either take it or they don't. So what does any of this have to do with anything? And if you're leftists on the court and you got all this going on with your swell brothers and sisters in black robes, your ideological colleagues and comrades, you're not going to take it up if they rule the way you want them to rule. So there's no quick path to this. There's no guarantee to that. The whole thing is absurd. Go ahead.
And that you never take this question to us. I mean, I noticed that you didn't take the substantive question to us. You only took the nationwide injunction question to us. I mean, why would you take the substantive question to us? You're losing a bunch of cases. This guy over here, this woman over here, you know, they'll have to be treated as citizens, but nobody else will. Why would you ever take this case to us?
Well, in this particular case, we have deliberately not presented the merits to this court on the question of the scope of remedies, because, of course, that makes it a clean vehicle where the court doesn't have to look at it.
You're ignoring the import of my question.
No, but you're ignoring what he's saying, which is if they seek the remedy that you're talking about. Listen carefully, America. I'm going to try and put this in non-lawyerese here. Then you frog jump over the issue of the process. So if he goes in and says, look, and I'm sure they sat down and they figured this out. What are we bringing to the Supreme Court exactly? And he's saying, if we go to remedies, then you're going to say, what's the problem with the nationwide injunction? Here you are. Now you're asking for a remedy. And so what he's saying now is, no, I'm not asking for a remedy. I'm challenging the process. And she says, you're not answering my question. No, he is answering. When they say that, it's so frustrating. Go ahead.
That in a case in which the government is losing constantly, there's nobody else who's going to appeal. They're winning. It's up to you to decide whether to take this case to us. If I were in your shoes, there's no way I'd approach the Supreme Court.
Okay, that's fine. But you're the one who's missing the point. They had to make a decision. Challenge the process or get a remedy. You're just telling him, if I were you, I'd never seek a remedy. They're not seeking a remedy. They're challenging the process. They're taking on nationwide injunctions. Go ahead.
So you just keep on losing in the lower courts.
Oh my
and
God.
What's supposed to happen to prevent that?
Again, I respectfully disagree with that forecast of the merits, but in response to the question, what I would say is we have an adversarial system. And if the government is not, for example, not respecting circuit precedent on the court's hypothetical in the Second Circuit, someone injured in the Second Circuit could take the case up. And they could say, look, the government is violating circuit precedent on the hypothetical multiple circuits.
That's the case we're going to take. Somebody who says,
you know, this is so stupid. Just so you know, non-lawyer, the whole discussion is stupid. It's just stupid. Substantive versus process. Why don't you deal, Justice, with the case that they brought, rather than suggesting, and you could have brought the substance and sought a remedy, and you did. But we didn't. We brought the process because we have a huge problem. And she says, oh, you're losing in court after court after court. Why don't you bring us up on the chat? I'll tell you why. And he would never say it in front of the court because he's dealing with a bunch of ambulance chasing, slip and fall, radical left-wing, Democrat lawyers. He's not bringing it up on the substance, which they may do in another case. He's bringing up the process that's being abused. That's why they keep losing. All right. Let's go to cut 11. I could be wrong. I haven't heard this. I'm just looking at the cryptic notes here that maybe she actually asks a good question of the other side, but I'm not sure. I'll know once we play it. Cut 11, go.
Here's what I worry about here, Ms. Corcoran, is that this case is very different from a lot of our nationwide injunction cases in which many of us have expressed frustration.
Yes, including you. When nothing was on the line, when she was doing an interview, caught on video, she condemned nationwide injunctions. Now, she's not so sure. Now, in this case, it looks like she's going to ask a very interesting question or pose a very interesting problem. But you could hear with the Solicitor General representing the Trump administration, she was all in. Go ahead.
And, you know, the typical way in which that frustration emerges is that legal questions are hard and they're complicated, and different courts would decide them differently. And instead, because of the forum selection process, a party goes to one place. You know, in the first Trump administration, it was all done in San Francisco. And then in the next administration, it was all done in Texas. Right. And there is a big problem that is created by that mechanism.
Wow,
and
that's a good question. Good for you. Let's see where this goes. Go ahead.
The questions to you and to General Feigenbaum, which is like, you know, your third buckets, which are, if it's like super important, or if it's quintessentially national, or whatever the way, you know, is not going to solve our problem for that set of cases, which is not this case. This case, what's problematic about it is that the courts keep deciding the same way.
He told you already he's not raising the substantive remedy issue. So why do you keep bringing it up? He told you he's brought this case, and I'm going to tell you why he brought it. It was the fastest one they could get to the Supreme Court. That's why they brought it up. He says he wants you to look at the process. The process. The lower courts, way out of their lane with these national injunctions. And you keep bringing up the substance, which is not what he's challenging. Go ahead.
That the lower courts are going to do anything different. And for that reason.
Offense, so it would be anything differently. Just telling the justice. Go ahead.
The catch me if you can problem that Justice Jackson said, and the problem of how are we ever going to get a case here. But our general...
Oh, good God. You know how you get a case there when it's appealed to you, Justice? You take it. That's how you get a case there. That is a problem without a remedy because there's no problem. You decide, four of you, what cases you're going to take up. This is becoming stupider by the audio clip. Go ahead.
Take that. And I just want you to sort of comment on it.
Yeah, I'd say first that the government's proposal of channeling through Rule 23 does nothing to solve anything you just described. I think the limiting principles that I was proposing, which again was just me trying to reflect back to the court, kind of the through lines that it's been identifying.
This is why people hate lawyers. You have a black and white issue, right and wrong. Where's the authority for lower courts to issue nationwide injunctions? There is no authority, not in the Constitution or anywhere else. But the courts, these leftists on the courts, they don't even want to start at first principles. They want nothing to do with first principles. So why didn't you argue substance and seek a remedy? You keep losing these cases. Well, we know why they keep losing these cases, don't we? That's part of the process problem, isn't it? Oh, and then you want to get it to the Supreme Court faster? Wouldn't you want nationwide injunctions? What does that have to do with anything? It gets to the Supreme Court quickly or not quickly, whether it's in one jurisdiction with a single injunction for the activities between those parties and in that jurisdiction, or whether it's nationwide. It's the same process. You can seek emergency appeals. The court can take them or not take them. So that's kind of stupid. That's a non-argument. Doesn't even make any sense. And then this bird brain goes on about different buckets. And I'm talking about the litigant here. Go ahead.
If this court were to articulate them, it would cut back on the number of universal injunctions. Is it a facial challenge? Does it involve a fundamental constitutional right? Right. Those are concrete.
So what she's saying is let's create a tiering process because the court loves to create law and tiering processes. They like to set policy. A tiering process is a policy process. And so the court, she's saying in the first instance, has to decide how important the case is. Is it a constitutional case? It's a statutory case. It's an administrative law case. It is this case or that case. Look at this. Look at what a mess the leftists are creating. There should be no nationwide injunctions. The only court that can issue a nationwide decision is the Supreme Court. And the only reason we're here is because Donald Trump is president. The lower courts, mostly Democrat, 90-some%, are completely out of control. We don't need new buckets. This isn't an issue of process versus substantive remedies. It has nothing to do with any of it. Go ahead.
You know, that Justice Kavanaugh's poll concurring.
All right, shut up. Sorry, this is painful, especially for me. I hate to say this, Mr. Producer. Let's go to one more before we take a break. Feel sorry for Solicitor General Sauer. Now it's Sotomayor, the dumbest of the dumb. Cut 12, go.
Here, there's a discrete identified group on one issue. Does citizenship mean?
We're actually getting to birthright citizenship now. Go ahead.
Are you born in the territory of the United States? Or does it mean, are you loyal to someone else, which is your claim? Or are
It's
you
not his claim. Your claim. So now, black and white textual constitutional law, where we have the history, where we have the speeches, we have the authors who make that point. It's now a claim. You see how it works? It's his claim. You know what? I have to take a break. We'll start this one from the top. It's too important. This goes to the issue of birthright citizenship. I'm glad you're here. You're in exactly the right place, the only place that's going to break this down for you. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin. News Talk 105.9 WMAL, making sense of the news.
From bases abroad to communities here at home, the dedication of service members, veterans, and their families is felt across the globe, and so is our gratitude. For more than 75 years, University of Maryland Global Campus has supported the military community wherever duty calls. During National Military Appreciation Month, WMAL and UMGC salute our nation's service members, veterans, and their families with a heartfelt thank you.
We're with Bridget, whose husband won't be home for months and whose daughter is due any day. We're with all service members and their families. Are you with them? Learn more at uso.org today.
Green light. Hey girl, school zone. I'm getting hungry. Car changing lanes. You want to meet me for pizza? Stop sign. Intersection clear. Yeah, street. Pizza sounds good. Ballin Street? Girlin Street!
It's hard to concentrate on two things at once, like texting and driving. Stop the text, stop the wrecks. How will you stop texting and driving? Tell us at stoptextstopwrecks.org. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
As a young adult at this point in your life, you probably have a lot of questions. Like, what's next? What does my future hold? The thing is, there's no right answer, only your answer. Your friendships, experiences, and purpose. It's all your choice. So what will you choose? As you make choices about the future, the military can be a resource for information to help bring a fulfilling path into focus. A public service message from the Department of Defense. To learn more, visit todaysmilitary.com.
Around the clock updates and uncommon understanding.
Listen to this, because this stuff is going on behind the scenes and you don't know about it.
News Talk 105.9. Making sense of the news. Making sense of your world on the go. Stream your favorite shows, get the day's top headlines, and access our podcast archives, all with the new WMAL app.
This is for you.
Get the WMAL app on Google Play or the Apple App Store and stay connected.
Not good on convos? Why not listen to the latest in news, sports, and lifestyle on the Cumulus Podcast Network?
That's a great strategy. It's actually more like going on a walk with friends.
You'll become the eyes and ears to the world. Follow and listen on your favorite platform.
Hi, I'm Vince Gallane's host of The Vince Show and Vince Podcast. It's a show with an obsessive focus on what's good for America. I'll give you the truth beneath the headlines of all of the nation's top stories. The Vince Show is redefining news talk with in-depth interviews, live caller interactions, and a front row seat to the most important conversations of the day, every day. The Vince Show and Vince Podcast.
WMAL's Vince Colonnese, weekdays at noon. News Talk 105.9. WMAL, making sense of the news. Making sense of the border.
Homeland security is right there at the tippy top of American concerns.
WMAL's Vince Colonnese, weekdays at noon.
You've got to be tough.
News Talk 105.9. WMAL, making sense of the news. Making sense of your money.
The state of the economy, the ability to afford your life. That's what people want.
WMAL's Vince Colonnese, weekdays at noon.
The kind of thing I pay attention to, I'm looking at.
News Talk 105.9. WMAL, making sense of the news.
Why did I wait so long to see a retina specialist?
Retinal disease can steal your eyesight, but it doesn't have to. Patients who seek care from a retina specialist have the best chance of preventing vision loss due to age-related macular degeneration or diabetic retinopathy. AMD symptoms to look out for are distortion or warping of straight lines, as well as blurred or loss of central vision. Patients with diabetic retinopathy should seek treatment if they notice the appearance of spots or floaters or blurred and distorted vision. Visit seeforalifetime.org.
Making sense of your world.
Greatly appreciated.
News Talk 105.9 WMAL.
I love listening to you.
Making sense of the news. Breaking news and the inside story on 105.9 WMAL. Making sense of the news.
Very important to stick with me after the top of the hour because I'm going to pull it all together from a constitutional perspective and how this affects your liberty. It's a big deal because these federal district judges, with the support of some of these Supreme Court justices now, have every intention of overturning the last election. And of course, that never comes into the questioning, does it? Does it? So it's very, very important. Stick with me because the first hour sets the stage. The second hour puts the exclamation mark where it needs to be. So I'd like to change gears for a minute, talk about the Holy Land. It's now the month of May. 80 years ago, this very month, the horror of the Holocaust, the final solution came to an end. And American troops were involved in that, liberating the people who were dying, being slaughtered in these death camps. The irony of what's going on today in the Middle East, huh? But do you know that about half of all Holocaust survivors live in Israel? The pain of the past now intensified by October 7th. The rise of anti-Semitism everywhere. Along with other elderly Jews, thousands in Israel live below the poverty line. For many, there's no safety net, and country's been through hell. Didn't have the benefit of being on an oil-rich territory like these throwbacks do, like these terrorist regimes do. But apparently that makes a big difference in foreign policy now. But this is why I support the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews. It's a fantastic organization. The fellowship provides a lifeline to these precious ones in the form of hot meals and boxes full of healthy food. For only $25, you can help the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews provide a food box. And that $25 is tax deductible to you. And you know, the more money you provide, the more meals they can provide too. $25, if you can provide more, you'll be feeding more people who are desperately in need. As I say, Israel is not a nation that's on top of 100 years of oil. Quite the contrary. So we appreciate your donation. Again, it's tax deductible and it's going to go straight to the people who need it in the Holy Land. And I want you to know how much they appreciate every penny you give them. Call 844-866-IFCJ. That's 844-866-IFCJ. 844-866-IFCJ. Or online at levinforthefellowship.org, Levin for thefellowship.org. All right, cut 12, go.
There's a discrete identified group on one issue. Does citizenship mean, are you born in the territory of the United States? Or does it mean, are you loyal to someone else?
Let me tell you what's going on here, because this is a fan dance of a legal fiction, a constitutional fiction. It doesn't mean if you're born in the United States. Diplomats have children in the United States. They're not American citizens. Tourists have children in the United States. They're not American citizens. At no time in 1866 or 1868, the 14th Amendment was drafted. Was there any discussion of people who were born in the United States becoming American citizens except for the children of former slaves? The 14th Amendment was about slavery. It was about the end of slavery. It was about nothing else. It applied the Fifth Amendment, due process and equal protection, all throughout the country in every state. Fifth Amendment only applied to the federal government. The 14th Amendment applied the Fifth Amendment to every state. Equal protection and due process. For newly free blacks, equal protection and due process. For their children, citizenship. For their children. It had nothing to do with foreigners stepping into the country, having children, and thereby getting citizenship. Nowhere is that said. Is that written? Nowhere. So the issue is, are we going to live a fiction for the rest of time and pretend that's what it is? Or not? Or not? These justices, as much as I can't stand some of them, they know the history of this. They know how to read. The question is whether they're going to once again turn themselves into pretzels in order to rule. And here's what they're going to say. And I believe they'll have a majority, unfortunately, because most of them don't have any guts. They're going to say, look, you can interpret it either way you wish. But the fact is that has been the practice. That's how it's been instituted by the executive branch. And who are we? Who are we to change the practices of the executive branch over all these decades and to put upon all these children who eventually will be born here a very ominous and onerous decision? That's where they're going to go. I'll be right back.
Making sense of your world.
I agree with everything you're saying.
News Talk 105.9 WMAL.
My heart just breaks for what's going on.
Making sense of the news.
Searching for an inside look at the people, stories, and passion that fuel the state of soccer in America, the United States Soccer Federation will be launching the all-new U.S. Soccer Podcast. Episodes will go beyond the field with players, coaches, and legends to bring you honest conversations and untold stories. This is where soccer will come to life. The U.S. Soccer Podcast. Follow and listen on your favorite platforms.
While serving in Iraq, our vehicle was hit. They didn't think I was going to make it. I'm LaToya Lucas, and I'm a veteran. I had to learn to live with the scars, both visible and invisible.
DAV helps veterans like LaToya get the benefits they've earned. They help more than 1 million veterans every year.
My victory is overcoming my wounds so I can help other veterans.
Support more victories for veterans. Go to DAV.org.
Why did I wait so long to see a retina specialist?
Retinal disease can steal your eyesight, but it doesn't have to. Patients who seek care from a retina specialist have the best chance of preventing vision loss due to age-related macular degeneration or diabetic retinopathy. AMD symptoms to look out for are distortion or warping of straight lines, as well as blurred or loss of central vision. Patients with diabetic retinopathy should seek treatment if they notice the appearance of spots or floaters or blurred and distorted vision. Visit seeforalifetime.org.
No Contest Wrestling. O'Shea Jackson Jr. and TJ Jefferson with the biggest names in the game.
Ricky Saints is in the house, everybody. NXT North American Champion, baby. How you feeling right now, man?
I feel great.
Jay Uso. What's going on, man?
A lot of heavy days, but it's okay, man. It's part of the game.
They know who they are, bro. And you know who I am. TJ, can you tell them where to find us? Yeah. I mean, why else are we here? You can always find us No Contest Wrestling. Check us out.
The No Contest Wrestling Podcast, part of the Rich Eisen Podcast Network. Follow and listen on your favorite platform.
WMAL-FM Woodbridge, Washington, a Cumulus media station. Making sense of the news. News Talk 105.9. News now.
WMAL News at 7. I'm Heather Curtis. Startling findings in a Maryland audit of autopsies for those who died in police custody.
The findings of this audit
are deeply concerning.
Governor Wes Moore on the review prompted by the actions of the state's former medical examiner, David Fowler. He testified for the defense in Derek Chauvin's murder trial. Attorney General Anthony Brown.
Dr. Fowler's testimony raised profound concerns within the medical community about the independence and objectivity
Of how in custody autopsies were handled. 36 autopsies from Fowler's Maryland time in office were found to be
homicides where the OCME had previously concluded they were either undetermined, accidental, or natural.
Scott Lynn on WMAL and WMAL.com.
He stresses just because something is classified as a homicide does not mean there was malicious intent or criminal charges will be filed. The floodgates are up in Georgetown Harbor as all the recent rain heads down the Potomac River with a coastal flood warning in place.
You're going to see high water along that portion of the river there in D.C. and actually going to get a little bit higher. The highest peak is going to be right around midnight tonight, where the river will crest around 8.4 feet at Georgetown.
National Weather Service meteorologist Kevin Rodriguez says the tidal basin and the ongoing seawall repair should be spared, but adds,
Tomorrow we could see some strong storms in the area in the late evening hours, so just something to keep an eye on.
Barbara Britt, WMAL and WMAL.com.
The Supreme Court hears arguments today about whether federal judges should be allowed to issue decisions blocking enforcement of President Trump's executive order ending birthright citizenship nationwide based on one case. U.S. Solicitor General John Sauer.
The appropriate way to do it is for there to be multiple lower courts considering it, the appropriate percolation that goes to the lower courts, and then ultimately this court decides the merits in a nationwide binding precedent.
New York Solicitor General, or New Jersey rather, Jeremy Feigenbaum argues nationwide injunctions aren't always appropriate, but are here.
Its argument that a single district court cannot decide birthright citizenship, or that we need more percolation on that question for the nation, overlooks that this court already settled this exact constitutional question
127 years ago. The court seems to favor scaling back nationwide court orders. Clouds may be setting in on a major incentive for Virginia homeowners to convert to solar energy.
Dominion Energy is proposing to reduce the credit that homeowners receive for having solar panels on their rooftops by about a third, arguing it would be a fairer deal for homeowners who don't have solar panels. The proposal is likely to receive pushback from state regulators because lowering the credits would make the economics of installing solar panels a lot more challenging. The credits are meant to entice homeowners to embrace clean energy by lowering their utility bills. But Dominion says the energy being produced by the solar panels doesn't match the value that customers are receiving. John Matthews on WMAL and WMAL.com.
You will not be paying higher income or property tax rates under the FY26 budget, given preliminary approval today by the Montgomery County Council. Councilmember Andrew Friedson says the $6.6 billion budget is a big win for affordability. Yesterday, the council rejected a proposal to raise income taxes to pay for schools. Councilmember Will Juando saying,
We've taken a step forward that allows us to move forward. And we're going to have difficult conversations going forward, but we'll deal with those as they come.
The budget also includes $700,000 for WorkSource Montgomery to help find federal employees new jobs. Up next, traffic and weather.
Hey, if you have ugly yellow toe fungus, you got to hear about the secret 2-minute trick that I found for my husband. It works from both the inside and the outside. Thousands of people are using it to get rid of their toe fungus. You can check it out at crystalflush.com. Jake started off with a small spot on his big toe, and then it spread and got really bad. His toes were nasty. It was so embarrassing. He was afraid to take his socks off. He hid his yellow and crumbly toes from everyone. He tried everything to get rid of it. Nothing helped. And then we found crystalflush.com. It was the only thing that worked. In just a few weeks, his toes looked amazing. He's now walking around barefoot again. You guys need to try this. I'm telling you, this stuff is different. It's not sold in stores, but go check it out at crystalflush.com. They'll even let you try it risk-free, so you have nothing to lose. But whatever you do, don't let it get worse. You don't have to live with this anymore. Go check it out now. Just click over to crystalflush.com.
Around the clock updates and uncommon understanding.
Listen to this, because this stuff is going on behind the scenes and you don't know about it.
News Talk 105.9. Making sense of the news.
Traffic and weather on News Talk 105.9 WMAL. Here's Michelle Murray in the Hadid Carpet Cleaning Traffic Center.
Watch out for an accident now in Camp Springs on the inner loop of the Beltway after Branch Avenue. That has traffic jam from Allentown Road, and also still slow on the inner loop headed from 66 to the Spur and from 355 to University Boulevard. Delays continue through College Park, and in Landover Hills, there is still an accident on Maryland 450 west of 410. Earlier accident in Suitland, though, on Marlboro Pike north of Larchmont Avenue has been cleared. In the district, there is an accident now reported on East Basin Drive at Ohio Drive. Now from GarageDoorRepair.com, the WMAL Stormwatch 7 forecast.
Isolated showers and thunderstorms this evening, 70 to 75 degrees by morning, mid-60s with a chance of patchy fog. High temperature Friday, 89 degrees, but could have some thunderstorms in the morning with damaging winds, hail, and downpours. That means more flooding. 7 News Chief Meteorologist Veronica Johnson in the First Alert Weather Center.
Right now, 78 degrees in Washington. I'm Heather Curtis on News Talk 105.9 WMAL.
Now on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. Mark Levin.
In the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Welcome back, America. Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. Now, you heard what went on in the Supreme Court. Broke it down as best we could. There was more of it, but that's good enough. And what was really being discussed in that courtroom? Birthright citizenship? National injunctions? What was really being discussed in that courtroom? Power. Who had the power to make what decisions? Who had the power to make what decisions? And this is what I'm hoping. It's sort of a revolutionary idea, but it's revolutionary because it's crucial. To get into the bloodstream of America, bloodstream of talk radio, bloodstream of Fox, and bloodstream here, you and me. The understanding that we talk around this issue all the time, but we need to confront it, challenge it, embrace it, or oppose it. This is very, very important to understand. I mean, this is really groundbreaking stuff. And as I pointed out the other evening, many have written about and debated the issue of power. The ancients and modern philosophers, scholars, statesmen. Because power determines your social arrangements, quality of life, and more to the point of this book, whether you're free or enslaved or some degree of either. It determines your personal fate, the fate of your community, the fate of a nation. There are infinite ways to view power, innumerable contexts, circumstances in which to apply it. There's truly no simple, concise, all-purpose definition for what is meant by power. But it's more than a mere word. It doesn't get the attention it deserves. It's a term meant to describe some kind of force or energy that surrounds us all the time. It's ubiquitous in your life, in the life of an entire society, and in a country. Power is a core reality and characteristic of human existence. Yet without more to go on, such as context and circumstance, it can be ambiguous and elusive. Let me ask you a question today as you went to work or you were working from home or whatever you do. Were you thinking about power at all? No. Even if somebody gets in your face and is rude to you or somebody is kind to you, what were you thinking about? Well, they were rude or they're kind. It all involves power. In all human pursuits, personal pursuits, life events, it matters. It shapes economies and politics and governments. It comes in many forms, many variations. But that it exists and it matters. Power is inextricably linked to liberty. Liberty is inextricably linked to rights. Liberty, the earthly understanding of liberty, involves power. Rights involve power. We don't get our rights from man, but man here on earth. determines whether we get to exercise those rights. Very important. Power determines if there's too much liberty, anarchy, too little liberty, tyranny. Power determines who gets to make these decisions. Under our constitutional construct, we have three branches. That's the battle going on right now. Power is a gift, and power is a threat. That's the truth. History is replete with examples of tyrants grabbing power in the name of liberty. History is replete with examples of republics that have collapsed, that existed much longer than we have so far, because they were turned from republics into empires into failed societies. Athens, Rome, numerous lesser societies. Democracies struggle against the centralization of power almost from the moment they're established, as we have. Power determines whether you live in a republic, a democracy, whether you live in a judicial oligarchy, a monarchy. Power makes all those determinations. Language has power. The way language is used, if you have the freedom to speak, the freedom to think. This is very, very important. People use power in good ways and in devious ways. Power can be said to be one thing when it's actually another thing, just like liberty, just like democracy. The most genocidal regimes use the word democracy, talk about freedom, but they don't believe in either. They don't believe in either. Over the millennium, mankind has generally suffered more from the abuse of power and the concomitant diminution of liberty than from its humane and righteous application. It's one of my hypotheses in this book. There are important exceptions, of course, in the individual's everyday life and society generally. But narrowing the focus even further, in the long history of mankind and even in modern times, the most pervasive form of governance under which most human beings live and have lived is authoritarian. Today, one only needs to look at the membership of the United Nations to prove the point. Some 70% of the world's population currently lives under brutal autocratic regimes, like Saudi Arabia, like Qatar, like the UAE, like Iran, all of our new friends. Now, this raises an unpleasant question. Is this the natural state of mankind, at least in the communal sense, even if individuals themselves wish for and seek liberty? And so, in analyzing this issue of power, in bringing you into this discussion as you read through this book, I try to break it down into simple steps. I call this negative power. Negative power. What's negative power? Chapter 2. Negative power is power that is exercised by force or other less obvious coercive means. Among its purposes is to limit individual identity, sovereignty, and liberty. In its most aggressive form, and when exercised by a faction, cabal, or government, both autocratic and authoritarian, for example, communist regimes, fascist regimes, terrorist quasi-states, the people are treated as servants to the proclaimed cause. And those exercising power, rather than the other way around, exercise it against the people. Its purpose is to devour and control society, not serve it. It must denude individuals of their free will, self-worth, aspirations, development, progress, human spirit, control the society generally through the exercise of concentrated, centralized, unchallenged, and ubiquitous power. critical to restrict speech and debate, manipulate language, manufacture new meanings for existing words. And by the way, as I explain deeper into the book, this isn't only about fascistic or communist or terrorist regimes. This happens in democracies. And it's happening in our republic. And what you heard, to bring it back to hour one, in the Supreme Court today, in the clips that we played by some of these justices, was not about democracy or republicanism. So I coined another phrase. It's about authoritarian democracy. Well, Mark, how can you have both? Very easy. Democracies don't ensure liberty. They don't ensure that your unalienable rights will be honored. I call this authoritarian democracy. The use of negative power, concentrated power, violation of separation of power, to create a Potemkin-like fiction to disguise the true intentions of the abusers, and worse, they're transformed into tools in support of the exercise of what I call soft negative power. Not full-out negative power, like Marxists and so forth, but a soft negative power. An authoritarian democracy. What's an authoritarian democracy? Does this interest you, Mr. Producer, as I go through this? Authoritarian democracy is when a democracy begins to slide into a form of authoritarianism. Not all at once, but steadily, with authoritarian attributes, slowly.
And just like it just goes off. Fucking ignorant motherfuckers. It's too nice to be sitting inside. They just want to advertise. Fucking ignorant motherfuckers. Wow, it's fucking ignorant.
Illogical arguments like you heard Jackson make when it comes to
Fucking
national
ignorant.
injunctions. When you heard Barrett. You're not going to honor a decision in that circuit in that state? Are you kidding me? Well, what's the decision? It doesn't matter. See what I mean? It doesn't matter if it's just, if it's right, if it's moral. Doesn't matter. So you can have a circuit court do the equivalent of a Dred Scott decision, and of course, Barrett's point is you have to follow the order. That's tyranny. You can always appeal it to us here on the Supreme Court. Doesn't change a thing. The power being exercised by these courts was actually considered. The judiciary generally, without getting into district court, should they have a policy role? Should there be a council? A coalesced council with the presidency. It's proposed, I told you that before, and utterly rejected. Rejected, out of hand. What's going on now is worse. It's not a council that serves with the president, has veto power. It's beyond a council. It has veto power, period. Every single federal district judge, almost 700 of them, could overturn the result of the election. That's power. Negative power is what I call it. Negative power. There's positive power. Positive power is the pushback. Those people who believe in constitutionalism, separation of powers, the proper lane for the different branches. Your Constitution was set up as positive power, linked directly to the principles in the Declaration of Independence. Positive power, what does it mean? It means power as best as can be accumulated and directed in the governmental context for the people. That's based on the Declaration. That's based on Judeo-Christian belief systems. That's based on God is the sovereign. God's children is the sovereign. Not government, not the ruling class. I know, we're biting off a lot, but I'm really into it. I'm really into it. And the reason why this book is so important in my view, I could take every issue that's going on today in the Middle East, on the border, and apply it to this book. And the explanation in this book to power and its consequence for you, whether you live in liberty or not, whether you live in a secure society or not. This issue, which is so overlooked, is sort of a drive-by issue where liberty and rights take up all the space in the room, and they're absolutely crucial. I know I've written about it. We've talked about it for 25 years. But we must zone in and focus in on what makes liberty possible, on what makes rights possible here on earth. And that's power. You can get On Power, my book, at Amazon.com right now. You can pre-order it. I encourage you to do it. So when they start slamming away with these deep discounts, you will get them. It's important. On Power. It's going to be like no book you've ever read. This I promise you. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin. News Talk 105.9 WMAL, making sense of the news.
We are the American Cancer Society, making strides against breast cancer. Are you ready to join the #1 breast cancer movement in the country? Sign up today at makingstrideswalk.org.
Blowing out your birthday candles should be easy, but if you have undiagnosed COPD, you may find yourself short of breath. Early diagnosis and treatment can add years to your life. If you have symptoms like wheezing or chronic cough, talk to your doctor and visit copdfoundation.org today.
Your phone has a lot of apps, but how many of them help you make sense of your world? The new WMAL app gives you the latest headlines, perspective from the voices you trust, and weather info to keep you in the know, all without having to remember yet another password.
Yeah, I'm all right with that.
Stream your favorite shows, get the day's top headlines, and access our podcast archives, all with the new WMAL app.
Thank you.
Get the WMAL app today on Google Play or the Apple App Store, and stay connected.
Nightly Scroll with Haley Carania.
It is Haley Carania. I'm excited to be here because there's a lot to scroll through on X, on Instagram, on TikTok, on Truth Social. Love seeing you all in the chat before the show. I try to jump in just a few minutes before to say hello. I love the chat interaction. Thank you for helping. Love all my homies that I get to scroll with. If you want to listen, Nightly Scroll with Haley is where you can find me. Just search that up and I will be there. We've got to spread the word far and wide.
Nightly Scroll with Haley Carania. Follow and listen on your favorite platform. Searching HVAC near here.
Right here, ma'am. How can we help?
Wow, nobody local? Huh.
Wait, what? We are an HVAC company literally in your neighborhood. Why is she not seeing us?
Just all the big chains. Well, it is what it is.
What in the... Can you not see us?
Nope, they can't see you because you're buried deep in the list of local HVAC providers. You are invisible online. Introducing Cumulus Boost. Get a boost, get found, get on the map. Learn more at cumulusboost.com.
Making sense of the media.
The news media is attacking him because this is what happens when you're a Republican.
Chris Plant, weekdays 9 to noon.
Yeah, our news media, really.
News Talk 105.9 WMAL, making sense of the news.
We're the stronger than we look type. I've had type 1 diabetes since I was 2. The braver than you think type.
I have to take insulin shots every single day.
The type that will stop at nothing.
No more blood sugar tests.
Absolutely nothing.
No more complications.
Until type 1 becomes type none.
Support JDRF's life-changing research, and one day you'll say, I helped turn type 1 into type none. Join us now at jdrf.org.
Happy kids heal faster. That's why Starlight Children's Foundation delivers happiness through gaming.
I have come, so I have to go.
Across the country.
I'll be back later. I gotta cut it short.
Some big news. Iran is threatening to wipe Israel off the